Kathy
Nice
Hill.
to meet you. Thank you.
See you.
Nice to meet you. Thank
Hi.
you for having me.
Hi, Jennifer Marilyn Richards. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Jennifer.
Jennifer, I'm just getting over a cold, so
I totally get it.
nice to meet you as
So
well.
much for having me.
Well, Jennifer, you saved me a minute or more on introduction, so thank
Okay.
you for taking that
Okay,
initiative.
you're welcome.
As well as thank you for your interest in East Long Meadow and for being with us this evening. We are going to ask a variety of questions, pretty much in a round robin sort of way.
Okay.
And we have our recess pushed us off a little bit, but we have an hour. You're more than welcome to the hour. So let me kick this off for you by asking you to tell us about your specific interest in our position and why you think you would be our successful town manager.
Okay, and thank you for having me. I very much appreciate the opportunity. My specific interest, I would say that I look at the jobs all the time on our municipal website. Due to my position in South Hadley, I'm always looking at the jobs to see what's out there and to see how other people are advertising, what they're advertising for, and things like that. And I saw East Long Meadow was advertised. And to be totally honest with you, I don't know what spoke to me. Something just spoke to me because I see jobs advertised on there all the time. I'm at a point in my professional career and my personal goals where I finished my master's. I'm in the process of submitting my capstone project right now, and it's time for me to advance myself. And seeing a community that was close by to where I currently live and where I grew up, I'm a Western Mass resident my entire life. I read your position statement. You had an article in Business West magazine as well about your community. I've followed the community a little bit because that's what municipal people do. We follow other communities sometimes. And I really felt who I am as a person fit with what you're looking for as a manager, someone who's going to bring balance, consistency, work together with not only the council, but to create a relationship with the department heads and the employees where they feel that they have an advocate for them as well, because I think that's very important. You've had a charter change, which can be an extremely tough thing to go through. I think you've seen that with your own eyes. We had a change in our community that I currently work in that I've been there 14 years, so I've seen a lot in South Hadley through the years. We've had some troubles with our administrators. We've had an empty seat. We've had 8 people sit in that seat in 14 years. Twice it was me as an interim and acting. So I just feel I really can help East Long Meadow move forward with the changes that you chose to make as a community and make it a positive change and have everyone feel that they're a part of the community.
Thank you. What do you understand your role as town manager to be in this situation?
Okay. Managing the day-to-day activities of the town, meaning all of the departments in the town, not managing departments, but being the overseer of those departments with connection with the fire chief, police chief, superintendent of public works, council on aging director, board of health, all of the departments that fall under the umbrella of the town. I would be that main person that they would go to if they had a need that they felt they couldn't handle on their level of management, but I would also go to them if there was something coming into my office either through the council or through Ms. Hill or from a resident that needed attention from that specific department. I'd also be I understand you don't have an HR department. I know it's kind of a work in progress. That is my background primarily. I do handle the HR duties as well, but as a manager, my job would be to be the final recommendation of a discipline or some sort of personnel action, also coupled with whatever the collective bargaining agreements speak to for those types of actions. But dealing with residents on a day-to-day basis, dealing with the council, dealing with vendors that are coming in to do things for the community, just basically being the day-to-day, I would be the one having to make decisions.
Thank you. And lastly, just one quick one to tag into that. How do you handle your personal and political bias in your day-to-day decision-making?
I don't have any. I don't have any. I'd say personally, I am a people person. All my life, I've always been drawn to people. And I know there's some people that naturally you're going to get along with, and some people that sometimes it's a little harder to get along with, but you work at it and you come to the agreement of, well, these are the things that we agree on, so let's agree on those, and the other things, we can kind of put those to the side, but get the work done on what we have to do. And politically, I'm not a political animal. I do follow things here and there, but I've never been someone to have a passion about something so political that I would feel I couldn't, talk to someone who felt differently about it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I have the leadership management question.
Okay.
Questions. Perfect world, what type of work culture would you work to create and foster in town hall, and how would you go about accomplishing it?
Okay. I'm a person that works hard, but I also like to have fun. I am a very positive person. I am who you see. That is basically who I am all the time. Sometimes we work with people or have friends or family that we kind of gauge, oop, it's not going to be a good day with that person, but I'm just always a very upbeat and positive person, and I try to foster that with the people that I am surrounded with on a daily basis at work. Going into a new place is always hard, so I would look to build bridges and build relationships with the people that are currently working for the town of East Longmeadow. I know that you have a great staff that is doing the work for you on a daily basis. You're very progressive. You have a lot of positives going on right now. You have a lot of residential and you have a lot of commercial, which is sometimes hard to balance. So I know your employees work hard towards putting a good face on what they're doing, and they're working for the residents. So I would want to continue that with them. And there's always going to be the people that want to stay on the side a little because they're not going to know, and they're going to have to get to know me. And that's what it's going to be. They'll get to know me, and I'll get to know them, and I'll go visit them in their office, and maybe we'll go take me out on a tour and show me where the pump stations are, or just let everyone know that I'm not the smartest person in the room, and I'm going to surround myself with the people that can help us all do this together. But I foster an environment of let's have fun while we do it, because we have to do it anyways, but let's get it done too.
What I'm going to do is combine the next two. It
Okay.
says, how would you hold employees accountable and maximize their performance, and how would you set goals for departments and for individual employees?
Okay, so the first one was
First one
how.
is basically, how do you make employees accountable for their behavior, and what can you use to motivate to maximize in performance? And then the next part has to do with goal setting of both a department and also individual people.
Okay, so I'll
We'll
go
break them
backwards.
up, yeah.
So goal setting, I would say, is a collaborative effort with myself and the employee, if it's a one-on-one with the manager, or if we're gonna possibly talk about a department, maybe it's two departments that intersect on a regular basis, inspections, and if it's plumbing and the health, and I don't know how it's exactly set up sometimes, but it would be sitting with the person themselves and asking them, where's your department going this year? What do we have on the forecast for bringing into the department? What do you want to work towards? And some of those goals I would most likely think would come from the goals that you give me to achieve as well. You would have me have certain goals for the year, and then those goals may also move on to the department's goals. So it's definitely a collaborative effort. I would ask the managers to bring their goals forward as well, because it can't be one-sided. Can't be just me telling them what I think they need to do, because they know what their job is and they know what their department does. So they should be the ones bringing ideas to me that we can then work together to hone through the year.
Okay, thank you.
So the goals are set, so
Yeah.
then the next one is how
It's
we
like
hold them
now all of a sudden you
accountable.
got the goals, and you're trying
Correct.
to hold them accountable, and
Right.
and trying to really kick it up so they can maximize their performance?
So every employee is different. We all look around this room, we're all different, and isn't that great? So every employee is going to be different, so I'm going to have to learn each employee's capability and what their skill set is, and learn what motivates them. And some people are very good at time management. Some people are very good at working on a deadline. Some people work best when it's, okay, it's got to get done right now, and they can go and do it. So I think it's really just getting to know who they are, but it's also letting them know that I'm there to help them if they need to get some help with that goal. Come to me and say, let's talk about this. But I'll also be going to them during the process of whatever project they're working on, getting the check-ins, how's it going, can you give me a report on that, and empowering them to make decisions within the goals that they're working on. Because again, they're the ones that are going to have to put these goals out to work with the residents at the end. So I can't micromanage them and tell them this is how they do it if I'm not the one actually doing the work at the end. It's communication.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The next set of questions fall to me, but I'm going to try to combine them a little
Okay.
bit in an effort to make it a little bit easier to speak about it. It has to do with finance.
Okay.
Can you please describe your role in financial planning for your town in past positions, including the development of a budget, capital improvement plans, and financial forecasting and reviewing financial policies?
Okay. As a department head, I am responsible for creating budgets that are under my purview every fiscal year. So I've done that for the 13 fiscal years that I've been with the town. But for the 2 times that I served as their interim and acting, I was responsible for shepherding the budget process from the beginning. So starting with the departments at the very beginning, talking to them about what we think the increase could be for the coming year. Do we think it has to be a flat budget this year? Do we know, are there certain programs coming in that are mandated from the state that we need to put into the budget? Talking about staffing levels. So I've been involved with the budget at every level, being a participant in managing one, building one as a department head, and also shepherding it from the beginning with the finance team that we work with in town. And capital planning, we have a capital planning committee in our community, and so we have a 10-year capital plan that we have created over the last several years to forecast out when we need, because we were not in a good position years ago where we had vehicles that were far from new at that point, and they were just getting Band-Aids put on them. So we finally put into place a true capital plan that every year we add on to it, and we're very, very committed to sticking to what we're putting out there as far as whether it's for improvements in a building or whether it's for vehicles or whether it's for new computers, new phone system, whatever the situation may be.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
As you mentioned, we have some struggles with our HR system.
Yes.
What has been your experience in building and managing an HR system? And related to human resources, the town manager would be responsible for collective bargaining. What have been your experiences in this area? And how would you execute those responsibilities here?
Okay. When I was hired in South Hadley, they did not have an HR department. The town administrator was doing all that work at that time. And when a town administrator or manager is trying to do all that work at a time in conjunction with all the other duties, it usually gets left to the side. And when something's on fire, that's when it gets looked at. So I was hired as the first personnel officer for the community then, at 30 hours a week, also being the chief procurement officer, because that definitely goes with personnel. So let's put those 2 together. And so I walked in and I got this job coming from an HR background in financial institutions, and they really had no department. It was true, and I had to build it from scratch to the point of where I had to retrieve files from every department, outside department, that were keeping files on employees and keeping medical records and just every issue that you don't want when you have an HR audit done or when the state or federal government comes in to look for your I-9s to see where they are. So there's a lot to be said about having an HR department that is organized and managed properly. And a lot of people don't know what an HR department does because a lot of it you can't talk about. But there's something to be said about a smooth running HR office. And when I was hired in South Hadley, we had some people who didn't think it was necessary. And my opinion always is if you have more than 2 employees, you need an HR office because they're gonna disagree at some point, because HR encompasses so many different areas. It can be recruitment, it can be the benefits, it can be the payroll, it can be discipline, it can be the collective bargaining. So there's so many different facets that can fall under a human resources department. So I've been a member of the Mass Municipal, they used to call it Personnel Association. This past year, we decided as a association to change it to the MMHR Association. I've been a member of that since I started in the town, and I'm very committed to professional development, both for myself and for all of the employees of wherever I work. I think it's important to learn the new trends that are happening out there, what other communities are doing. We're all doing the same work. It's just different names are attached to those employees in the HR realm of it. So it's nice to know that if you have a problem with an employee, you can call or email someone in another community and say, this is what's happening. How did you guys handle this? So, and documentation, nobody ever wants to hear that from the HR person, because I know when I'm saying that to someone, they're not documenting it, and I know that. And I've always told my department heads, just let me do my job, because that's my job, is to help you and help your employees. And when you let me do that, you can then go focus on police work or fire or water or DPW. And so HR is a very tricky thing to get employees to trust as well, because some people think HR is when you're in trouble and when things aren't going well. And I've always used my time in HR when I have situations with employees, even when it's a tough situation and they're having problems at work or they're having problems at home, to make sure I always end that conversation with them on a positive and give them, that, hey, make sure don't forget we got the, cookie swap coming up this week, or because people come to work not to do a bad job. They want to do a good job, but sometimes there's other things going on in their lives that are preventing that. So I really think to have a strong HR department that the employees feel that they can go into and have a conversation with is really important for any community. So if you needed to have an HR office built, I could do that for you. I write employee handbooks, I do wage studies, I've done collective bargaining since probably the first 2 years I started at the town. I was at the table, and so collective bargaining agreements, they constantly need to be rewritten, and housekeeping, because someone else is interpreting something the other way. And we've really tried to simplify our policies and our manuals, so it's not this algorithm of if the person was hired on this day but didn't get hired till after the 15th, how many vacation days do they get? And it creates a nightmare for the payroll department, because they're literally trying to figure out how many days does the person get. Just give them the 10 vacation days. That's fine. It doesn't have to be 9.5. We're not going to go broke over 9.5. So I think there's a little simplification that can be done in all policies.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next one's mine, grant writing. Please tell us about your grant writing and administration experience, and what grant-funded projects have you successfully completed?
We have, in South Hadley, I've been involved with, we did a spray park at one of our parks across from Town Hall. It's called the Beach Grounds, and that was one grant that was funded through the Urban Self-Help Grant, it was called, years ago. And we also did one at Buttery Brook Park for a playscape area that we did, and a spray park. We have, several years ago, we did an urban self-help grant to build the golf course in town, which I wasn't there when the golf course was built. I got there after it had shortly opened, so I still had to continue working with the representative from the state, because there were certain reports that need to be filed. Grant writing, I did a grant for the municipal technical grant, it's called, about solar, to see what we could do at our public buildings, even though we have a South Hadley electric light, which people don't you don't get the same benefit when you have an electric light department in your own community versus having National Grid or Eversource. We did have a chance to do a grant to see if we could put up solar panels at some of the buildings, so I worked on that. Grant writing is an art. It's one of those things where you can have the wrong word and you're gonna get kicked out. There's specific words that have to be used in specific grants, and we've done group community meetings before, and we've had residents not like some of the wording in some of the grants, especially when it was for the Falls area, which for our community is more apartment living, not single resident housing. And some of the language sounded to some of the residents in that area that it was describing them as not being as affluent. But that was the language that had to be used in the grant to try to get the funding for the project. So I personally think the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission is a great resource when you're doing any sort of grant, because they have the expertise on staff to assist us. And sometimes a lot of our grants are done through our planning department. The community development block grants are done through there. I know there's some dispatch grants that are currently out in the state. So there's always money available. You just have to know what your community can qualify for as well, and what you want to spend your time on searching for.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Jennifer, I'm next.
Okay.
Planning and economic development is my category for your
Okay.
question. East Long Meadow is interested in balancing residential neighborhoods with the need for commercial, industrial, and retail investment. How would you work to encourage appropriate economic development that aligns with East Long Meadow's character?
Okay. So through my research, I do see that you have a parcel on Chestnut Street, I believe, is it? That's being looked at for possibly mixed use, which again is the new term in municipal government. Every few years there's a new term. I drove by it the day that I came for my first interview with the search committee to get familiar with the area. It is definitely a huge space. It's something that definitely looks like it needs some help, just other than maybe cutting some of the bushes down that are dead. But to me, economic development is again a word that Marilyn may have a different opinion of it than Thomas does. And I think for economic development, you have to get that balance within the community, because some people do not want growth. They just don't. They want to keep their community how it is, how they grew up, how maybe their grandparents grew up here, where other people want to see their taxes go down and want to see maybe the community next year when you set your tax rate go for a business and a residential. I know you stayed with a single tax rate this year when you just said it a few weeks ago. So that's really, I think it's communication, it's conversation, it's really getting people in a room together to have those conversations openly and honestly, because you're never going to make everybody happy, but you can maybe at least get everybody to some sort of a consensus of what the community really wants and needs for today and for going forward.
Part of development throughout the community would be assisted with a master plan,
Mm-hmm.
possibly. We are in the process of trying to work out how best to increase the opportunity for a master plan for 2030
Yep.
for East Long Meadow. Our last one was 1976.
So it's time. Things have changed.
The question is how would you envision yourself playing a role in the final development of, or also implementation of a master plan?
Okay. And a master plan, to go to Ralph's question, also that's something that a lot of grants are looking to make sure you have a master plan current, so you can qualify and apply for certain grants
I
as
would love a
well.
grant for the master plan.
It might be out there, we could
Okay.
see. But typically a master plan is started through your planning department. That's usually gonna be the person who's spearheading it. Again, it's a lot of community involvement, it's hosting community forums, having, whether they're on a Saturday or sometimes at weeknights, to give everyone the chance to come. Usually you do have a facilitator for it sometimes. That's someone that sometimes we hire from outside to come in because, again, that's their expertise. And at that part of the process is when you're getting those ideas. Where do you see East Long Meadow in 2020, 2030, 2040? And 30 years ago, if you ask the questions, you have different answers. And today you're going to have different answers as well from residents. So that's the first step, is to get your master plan started. I don't know where you are on that. But if I was to be the person that would be with you on a daily basis, my role in making sure the implementation goes forward would be either we have a subcommittee that could be the master plan implementation committee, and I could work with them. It could be made up of residents and department heads, or I could just work directly with the town planner, the planning board, and the town council to make sure that certain departments that are supposed to be doing certain tasks are staying on track with that. And sometimes it becomes more of a pod type of environment where if there's a certain task that has to do with recreational activities, you know, instead of having a meeting with all of the people that are department heads, maybe you just have it with recreation, and maybe that recreational activity is also going to intersect with council on aging. So we would maybe do pod meetings, and I think it would be something that you'd want on your agenda, kind of on, you know, outstanding items pending. What's the update on this? Where are we on it? Because a lot of these things, what happens is they get started, they get done, and they get put in a drawer sometimes, and people don't look at it. So unless you have someone constantly reminding us, hey, let's look at this, it needs attention. So you need to stay on top of it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm next.
Okay.
Jennifer, my question is on delegation.
Yes.
And it says here, serving as town manager is a time-consuming job with a lot of responsibility. How and when do you delegate responsibility and authority?
Every day. You have to, as a town manager, you have to be able to delegate. I can't be taking everything on myself. And that was something that I learned and I grew to learn as, you know, you work longer in a position and you start to realize that I don't have to be the person to do everything. I could have Jeannie do it and she's gonna get the same end result done. It may be a different way that I did it, but the end result is the same. So I also think with the word delegation comes the empowerment process, because if I'm going to empower my employees to do something through a delegation, that's going to make them feel that they're part of the process, that they're bringing ideas to the table, and that they're the ones that are at the end of the day going to be given the credit for getting that project off the ground. So there's definitely, I'd have to weigh what's in front of me on a daily basis. In my world, when I'm coming into work, I always have kind of an inclination of what I want to work on. It usually doesn't stay that way because things happen. So I have to rearrange my calendar and change things around. And we recently had that happen in our community a few weeks ago, where I had to step into the town administrator's seat for a week. And back to the question about managing and leading, I had employees coming to me that week saying, what do I need to do for you? Tell me what you need. And to me, that was a great resource to me, but it also made me feel so good inside that instead of employees looking on the sidelines and being like, oh, I'm not helping, they wanted to pitch in and they wanted to help out. So again, fostering the environment that we're all here together, let's get the work done. And I'm willing to do something in another office as well to help out. If I have to answer the phone or, you know, help a customer to a different office, I'll do that as well. But I think people want to learn new things too, and I think cross-training is important, and that's how you grow your employees. I'm a huge advocate. I've cut out ads or sent emails of jobs to my own employees because I know they want to advance themselves, and sometimes they're in a different community, but that's good for them. If I have employees leaving where we work because I've helped them grow, that's a home run for me.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I also drew the next one.
Oh, lucky you, Kat.
Creating a partnership with the public school system.
Yes.
And it says it's critical for a town manager to have the desire and skills to establish a positive working relationship with the leaders of the public school system. And even though we don't directly control them,
But they're still a department of the town.
In your current and past communities, please describe your relationship with the school superintendent and school committee.
Well, my current and past community is the same because I've been in South Hadley for 14 plus years now. my situation in South Hadley, logistically,
Change.
well, it's changing now, but I'm right below the superintendent, my office, because the school business office and superintendent is in town hall. So we have the school business office, the superintendent, and special education and curriculum is in the town hall. So we have quite a good relationship as far as we know who the people are, we interact with them, we have lunch together, but also on a basis of doing work together. The 2 years that I had to serve in the interim and acting role, working on the budget, had to interact with the superintendent at that time and with the school committee. Constantly, we just had a meeting the other day about how can we bring things together? Can we, now with our change, because our superintendent has left recently, we have a interim right now, the high school principal is doing that for us. And we met with her the other day and her business manager to talk about ways we could collaboratively, could we bring HR together? Could we bring IT together? Could we bring facilities together? So it's just constant, again, communication. I always go to that because that's how you are successful. I tend to be an over communicator. I would be the one sending Miss Hill an email just to say, hey, this might come across you this weekend or tomorrow when you go out somewhere. And she may never hear about it, but at least I told her. Because I always want to make sure that the council would know something before they hear it from a resident, if it's something you need to know.
And the follow-up question would be, have you had any experience working with the school department on a building project?
I was on the Plain School Building project as my role as Chief Procurement Officer for the town. And you have to have, for MSBA funding for the process, exactly. You have to have a chief procurement officer in your community. So I was on the building committee for that. So I'd go to meetings, and we're currently starting a council on aging project now. So we had a library building project in the past 5 years that was built. So, and any project at that size of $1 has a owner's project manager assigned to it, which is another process of where the council would hire an owner's project manager through an RFP process.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Jennifer, next question is on building relationships. I sort of get the handle that, or the sense that you've touched this
Okay.
before. So I'm going to give you the question,
Okay.
and you can say I've talked about that, so let's move on.
That's okay.
Okay, please describe how you would develop, manage, and increase relationships with other East Long Meadow stakeholders, elected and appointed board members, neighboring communities, as well as state and federal officials.
Okay, that's a big one, Marilyn. So the
You're
East
not
Long
gonna
Meadow,
pass?
the East Long Meadow stakeholders, I would say, are your businesses, your residents, your nonprofits that are in town. The stakeholders are your employees. The stakeholders are the school department, you know, the teachers, the parents of children. And there's sometimes a gray line of a town council and a school committee. Sometimes parents think the town council has something to do with it. There's sometimes that gray line. So I think it is also still important. We're all East Long Meadow. We all work for the same, we don't just work for the school department, we work for East Long Meadow. And so I think that's important to remind people. So I would love to create a relationship with the superintendent and be able to go to maybe some of their meetings that they have with their staff. Maybe they have development meetings. I know they have professional development days, so maybe that's something where I could go and get introduced. So just so people would know who I am and let them know that the town is looking to foster and grow the relationship even more. I know it's already very well, I think, from what I've heard and read. So that's the stakeholders. And then what was,
Well, just to.
other
elected,
communities.
appointed boards and then.
yeah, okay,
you
so
know.
elected appointed boards. So elected and appointed boards, obviously there's a difference. You're all elected, so you were, chosen by the residents of the town. And then the appointed boards, do you appoint the boards?
Manager.
The
The
manager,
manager does.
the manager appoints board, okay. So, and sometimes that can have a little level of who's in charge here. So I think in that case, the message has to be that, again, they may be appointed by the manager, but the manager is falling under the town manager for the day-to-day instruction, but sometimes there might be something where the town council and that appointed board need to get together, or maybe there's a subcommittee from the town council that's gonna meet with a certain committee to discuss an issue. So again, communication, just making sure everybody knows that come together and talk about things, and that's how we'll get things solved. And with other communities, I have a great relationship with many people that are in my similar position in the communities around us. I know Lynn Simmons, who just got hired next door in Long Meadow. I spoke to her a few weeks ago. She wished me luck. And she was very excited to hear I was applying for it. She thought it would be a great time to, you know, join together maybe and try to do some things collectively with their community. I live in Chicopee. I have a good relationship with the outgoing mayor, Koss, and I actually know the new mayor coming in too, John View. Locally, for your reps, I know Brian Ash, I know Sheriff Cochee, I know Eric Lesser. So I do already know who is fighting for you at the State House, and I think that's important because communities that have new representation, we're actually going through that where I work currently because we've lost our rep retired and our state senator retired. So there's a level. When you're there a long time, you're going to get a little more attention. And so when you have a community that has long-standing reps in Boston, that's good for you. And that would be my job to make sure that they're helping us out and bringing everything that we can get into East Long Meadow.
Okay, one other piece to this question, any efforts on your part to do any regionalization with another community and sharing of resources, that sort of thing?
Some that I've already done.
Done, or what your philosophy would be
Okay.
on that?
We already do that. We do it with our veterans agent. We share a veterans agent with East Hampton. We used to share with East Hampton and Granby has now gone out on their own. We, our sealer of weights and measures retired last year. A lot of people don't know what a sealer of weights and measures does, but it's very important when you're at the gas pump and when you're buying your produce and your deli meat. And when our gentleman retired after a very long career with us, we looked to Northampton, and they are now doing that service for us. So we came up with an intermunicipal agreement where they can do that service for us. It's very important, and a lot of communities are realizing that, again, we're all doing the same type of work, and you can't always find someone to be your part-time sealer of weights and measure or your part-time animal control. So to build those relationships with the communities around you, and if we have the skill set in East Long Meadow, maybe we offer that out to some communities and we become the host community for that. So it's very important, again, to have that open communication out to the other communities as well, to say that we want to be a partner with you and we're not in this alone. We want to be in this together.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, Mike.
The
I
next
don't know
question,
him, but I think I'll go with Mike.
citizen relationships.
Yes.
Pertaining to East Long Meadow is a highly engaged community where citizens expect their local government officials to be easily accessible. As you know, when we changed our form of government, the town meeting went away.
Yes.
Us being legislative, the residents need communication with us or our town manager.
Yes.
So what has been your approach to interacting with citizens, taking action to improve communication with the residents?
Let's go forward. So say I was chosen to be in East Long Meadow, I would definitely want to host maybe a coffee hour. I don't drink coffee, but I'll serve it. I drink tea. Coffee hour, have some donuts, have people come in, whether it be held at town hall or whether I come to the Council on Aging, invite people over, go to the schools again, just get my face out there and get my name out there so people know who I am. And anyone can call anytime, come into the office anytime. I mean, that's what my job is. Even though I may be working on something right at that moment, yes, I'll be with you in a minute, just give me 1 minute, and then we can sit down and talk about it. I will say that's one of the most important parts of my job is I love the residents that I've met through the years. People come into town hall sometimes because they're bored and they want to talk. I know that. That's fine. Some people come in because they have a problem that they think the town has to solve for them. A lot of the times it's not for the town to solve, you know, it's I think you've all probably heard about the fence that's over on my property or the shed that's over on my property, and when you start to get into the conversation, you find out it's been there for 25 years. And when you really dig down, now all of a sudden his daughter was dating my son and now they broke up and now the shed's a problem. Well, that's not the town's role. That resident has to go through land court. They have to get an attorney on their own, but they want the town to do that. They want the town's attorney to help them. We can't do that, and that has to be a no that the resident's gonna get, but we can explain that to them. I had a woman once who came in it was a beautiful summer day. She came in and she was very upset over a fence. And I looked at her and I said, "Are you on vacation this week?" Because I knew she worked. She goes, "Yeah." I said, "You're in town hall on vacation. Go do something. Go enjoy yourself today. Don't worry about this right now." And she looked at me and she was like, "You're right." Like, I think sometimes residents, and we all do it, we've all done it. We all get upset over something and we focus on something, but sometimes residents really get into the town wanting to solve all of their problems. We can't do that. Government can't solve everybody's problems. We can be assisting them in learning where to go and who to call, and these are the papers you need to fill out, but we can't solve all their problems. But I have truly loved getting to know a lot of the residents in South Hadley, and I have residents who will just call me directly. I have other residents who call me and say, "Kathleen Kennedy told me to call you because she said you could get this done for me." So it's just, you know, you always return them. I've had people, responded to an email 2 weekends ago during the snowstorm, and the woman responded to me and she says, "I can't believe you responded to me on a Saturday." Well, didn't take much out of my day, you know, and I think sometimes that goes a long way with people, so
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Kathy, okay, in front of you.
Yes.
I'm gonna count this down.
Okay, so I'm going to jump in here and talk about the charter as it relates to town council relationships.
Okay.
What would you envision as your relationship in working with the town council?
I would say, first and foremost, my immediate relationship would be with the chair. It would be the chair and myself having conversations, because I think that all committees that have a chair, you need to work through the chair. Because if you don't work through the chair, you have chaos, and we never want chaos. So I would work through the chair, whether it be setting agenda meetings or bringing things to your attention that need attention, or you would be bringing things to my attention. I should be making your job easier. I should be letting you focus on your policies that you need to legislate as a council. So I would hope that I would be bringing to you, here's what happened, here's what we did to solve it, and it's put to bed. I shouldn't be coming to you to solve the problems that are my job.
Okay.
I can come to you for advice, definitely, but you should be looking to me to solve the problems.
All right, so here's a scenario. Thank
Okay.
you for that. Imagine a scenario where the town council takes a position or is poised to move in a direction that you believe could be harmful or detrimental to the town. How would you approach that?
So my job is to give you advice on a subject matter. So depending on what the subject matter is, I would do my research. I would provide you, a summary sheet, white paper on whatever the subject matter is. This is what we've talked about. These are the downfalls. These are the positives. This is what I would recommend you look to do. If you choose not to follow my recommendation, that's your choice. I just simply provide you the information for you to make a decision as a council. And that would be something that no one would ever know, that I didn't agree with your decision. I provided you the information and you made the decision.
Okay, thank you.
Under priorities, if you were to be appointed our town manager, what would be your first few priorities when you took the job?
Figuring out how to get into the office, because I did visit it the day I came here. for the interview. And I will say, I walked into town hall and I was like, where do I go? Like, it was a little like disturbing. I didn't know how to get places, but a nice woman came out and she helped me around. I did find the bathroom, because I always look for a bathroom first. It's important. So the first, say it's day one, I would get to know who works in the office. I would get to know who works in town hall. I would physically go and meet every person. Maybe host again, 10:30, why don't y'all come down to this room, whatever it is. Or I think the first, and again, anytime you go somewhere new, they don't know who I am. I don't know who they are. We have to get to know each other. So some of the talk would be personal, some of the talk would be professional, some of the talk would be about sports if I follow that, but I don't. It would just, it's a relationship. So I would start to build relationships with people, and at some point, that would entail me going out to the other departments as well, and I think that's really important. I've seen that in my past, in my current life, where me going out to the other departments, they like that. I've recently been spending a lot of time at our DPW because we don't have a DPW superintendent right now. I wear a lot of hats, and so right now it's the DPW hat I'm wearing on several days. So they have a running joke with me, when am I ready to go do the hot patch and things like that. So, but you get to know people that way, and I know about our employees, and I think they like that. When I can say, hey, Brian, how are the kids? Oh, is your wife still working at Big Y? And they kind of like look at me funny, but I'm like, I'm a people person. So I think really the first few days, the first weeks, the first months would really be getting to know who East Long Meadow is. And they would all be helping me because I'm the new kid on the block. And I'm welcome to help, come in and help me and tell me not to park in that space because someone else parks there, I should be parking further away to try to get my steps in.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Career overview. Again, I'll truncate the question. It's basically, in your career, can you give an example of your most successful and rewarding project and why? And conversely, what was your most disappointing or unsuccessful project and what did you learn from that?
Good questions. Because my focus is typically HR, I have had the privilege of working with employees who sometimes were struggling in their role. And sometimes I have to make a recommendation and make a hard decision because I know it's the best thing for the community. And when I can see an employee has promise and definitely can bring more to the table. I had a situation where I brought a recommendation to the administrator that we create a performance improvement plan for a department head, which was difficult because the department head had some difficulties communicating with people. And it was a lot more work for me, and that was one of the things the administrator said to me. He goes, this is going to be a lot of work for you. I said, I know. I said, but it's worth it. And I worked about 8 months with this department head on basically every 2 weeks. We were meeting, and there was goal points to meet, and some of the conversations were really hard. And recently, this was about 2 years ago, and recently I've had that department head reach out to me and say, you've been really helpful to me and I really appreciate your support. And for me, that's a win. And it's a win, one, for the employee because they're still with us and they're still adding value. It's a win for the town because you never want to lose employees because you never know what else is out there, And again, no one wants to come to work to do a bad job. And I just felt that I added value to that person. And I hope that that's something that they carry on with them for the rest of their career in their office. Conversely, being in HR or being a manager, the worst part is when you have to terminate an employee. And I said this at my screening committee interview, and I have always felt this. If at any point you don't feel bad about terminating someone, you need to get out of the business, because it's the worst feeling in the world. And I know every person I've ever terminated. And I've terminated them not because of anything that I did. I had to terminate them because of what they did or didn't do. And that just forced me to do my job. And it's difficult. It's very difficult. So I do not separate employees from employment easily. I definitely work with employees and find out, what we can do to help them. It's our job as managers to help them succeed. That's our job. And if every employee was perfect, wow, we wouldn't be managers. We wouldn't have to do that. But, there's been days I've gone home and I've thought about employees, because I know that they're struggling, and how can I help them, and how can I get them to value themselves more or separate their personal, again, personal life is part of who we are. We love to say leave it at the door. That's not real life. And I've worked with employees who have gone through divorces and deaths in their families and sicknesses and, adult children getting into trouble. And I've had to work with employees, and that's been really rewarding for me.
Good, thank you. So I'm gonna do the wrap-up now.
Okay.
And give you an opportunity to ask us one question if you have one.
Okay, I have one question. When I read the Business West article, you stated that you were looking for someone to become your partner and to bring you forward and to bring somewhat of a calm to what's been going on here. And I want to do that, but I want to make sure you want that. Because that is going to entail sometimes me having to say to all of you, you have to do this and I have to do this. Because if you want to talk to department heads, that's not going to work. Because the department heads have to know that they're with me and I'm going to have their best interest. And if you want to talk to department heads separately without me knowing, that's going to erode the relationship for all of us. So we can do it together. We can find ways to make that work. But it definitely, just as Ms. Hill asked how I would relate to the council, I would go through the chair, and I would ask the same, that you would go through me for department heads.
Spot on answer. Well, that concludes all of our questions. Again, we thank you for your interest.
Thank you.
And for sharing insight tonight with us.
I
wish you the
appreciate it.
best.
It's a great opportunity. It's my first time ever getting out of the box, so I'm trying to push myself out of the
Good for you.
nest.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
I have to get home and finish
No
wrapping.
shaking.
Yeah. We're running out of
I
time.
know, we certainly are. Thank you so much. Have a great evening. Thank you.
Do you want this water, Tom?